This is our first Halloween in Oakbrook Village. Even as the first chill of September set in, I could tell something was different about the way this town celebrated. For one, the decorations were different. There were no cute inflatable decorations, despite the many families that had small children. There were also no Instagram mom decorations, no regal wreaths of autumn foliage or pumpkins painted gold. The kinds of decorations here were what I'd call tasteful creepy. Skeletons of all kinds, witchy hats, fake graveyards, no hockey masks or fake corpses or bloody body parts. I think every house had a jack-o'-lantern, lit every night without fail. Everything from classic triangle eyes to elaborate contorted faces of witches and werewolves and ghouls. Avery and I didn't want to stand up, so we did some jack-o'-lanterns. She did a very elaborate one with a demon on it, and I did two rather shitty triangle-eyed ones, one for each side of the front door. Hers got the place of honor at the foot of the steps. But as Halloween approached, things started to get weird. A few days before Halloween, I found two papers taped to my front door. I yanked them off the door and started to read. Rules for handing out candy 1. Please be respectful and inclusive of all our trick-or-treaters. Teal candy buckets mean food allergies. Blue candy buckets mean autism. Do not hand out candy, or anything else, to children using a black candy bucket. 2. Never open the door for someone wearing a clown costume, child or adult. This is not a trick-or-treater. Turn off your porch light and wait until they leave. 3. If trick-or-treaters come to your door asking to take shelter in your house, only let them in if the streetlights are flickering. Otherwise, do not let them in. 4. If you open the door and see a single child standing several feet from your door, facing away from you, close your door immediately. 5. Do not answer the back door for any trick-or-treaters. 6. If you are visited by a group of 3 children, specifically dressed as a pirate, fairy, and demon, offer each child something that holds deep sentimental value to you. You can take a while to decide. They will wait. Do not hold back. You do not want to find out what happens if they deem your objects unworthy. 7. Do not approach any houses that have an unlit jack-o'-lantern. 8. Trick-or-treating begins at 5 p.m. and ends at 8 p.m. You must be present to hand out treats for the entirety of that time. There is also a complimentary list underneath for those trick-or-treating. Rules for trick-or-treaters. 1. If you have food allergies, you may use a teal candy bucket to indicate it. If you have autism, you may use a blue candy bucket to indicate it. Do not use a black candy bucket. 2. Do not wear a clown costume. If you see a child or adult wearing a clown costume on someone's porch, skip that house and tell everyone in your party to skip it as well. 3. If the streetlights start flickering on and off, take shelter in the nearest house. 4. Always travel in groups. Never stray from your group. 5. Do not trick-or-treat at 18 Magnolia Avenue, the dark, Victorian-style house at the end of the cul-de-sac. 6. Avoid the following costumes: pirate, fairy, and demon. There is only one group that uses these costumes, and they do not like to be copies. 7. Make sure you light at least one jack-o'-lantern for each member of your household. 8. Trick-or-treating begins at 5 p.m. and ends at 8 p.m. You must remain outside, trick-or-treating, for the entirety of that time. And then a third paper, which simply read, Please note all residents are expected to participate in our Halloween festivities. You may choose to either trick or treat, no matter your age, or hand out candy. However, please be sure to abide by all rules for your group. It had to be some sort of prank. Honestly, hats off to them. This was creative and creepy. I'd rather our teenagers be playing harmless pranks like this than scrolling TikTok. You going trick-or-treating this year? I asked Avery as I came in. Yeah, Maddie and David are going with me, she said. You want me to come with you guys? Mom, she groaned. I'm 13. Okay, you'll have your phone, right? Yes. I gave her the rules lists. Did you see this? Some kind of funny prank. Avery looked them over. Oh yeah, Maddie told me about them. They're legit. What? We're supposed to follow them. They're real. No way. Yeah, way. Was she involved? Or maybe the perpetrators were friends of Maddie's? I opened my mouth to say no way again, but Avery's expression suddenly darkened. Serious. Promise me you'll follow them, she said quietly. Seriously, promise me. Okay, I promise. I almost regretted moving here. Things were getting weird. Too weird. But I tried to comfort myself by thinking about my increase in salary and how much closer we lived to my boyfriend now. This was just a rocky, weird start. Things would look up from here. How wrong I was. Halloween night was cool and crisp, just as it should be. A full yellow moon hung low in the sky, and a brisk wind rattled the half-bare branches. Dried leaves skittered across the sidewalk, and the air was full of giggling excitement. Avery had left an hour ago. It was just me, alone, sitting at the door with a bowl of assorted fun-sized candy. I picked out all the Milky Way midnights for myself as I did my annual watch of Hell House LLC. Ding dong. I got up, grabbed the bowl, and looked through the peephole. 3 girls in various princess get-ups stared up at the door. Tulle and sparkles in green, purple, and orange. I threw the door open. Trick or treat, they shouted in unison. Oh, how sweet, I said, reaching into the bowl. What would you like? That's when I noticed 2 things. First, there was no parent with them. The closest adults were all the way out on the sidewalk, and they didn't seem like they were waiting for the girls. The second, all 3 of them were holding black candy buckets. I froze, handful of candy midair. Those rules were a joke, right? I'm not going to tell these kids I'm not going to give them candy. That would be insane, and so mean. The 3 girls stared at me expectantly, not smiling. I coughed. I'm out of candy. Oh, real convincing. Good job. I was holding the candy bowl. I'm saving this for someone else. They stared up at me, not saying a word. Sorry. I started to close the door. As the door shut, for the tiniest moment, they smiled. And I could have sworn. I saw rows of razor-sharp fangs. I shut the door. My heart pounded, and I felt a little faint. I collapsed back into the chair by the door. They didn't have fangs. That's ridiculous. Or if they did, that was part of their costume. Vampire princesses. Yeah? Probably some movie? I was unnerved until the next set of trick-or-treaters came. I made sure their candy buckets weren't black, and they weren't the pirate fairy demon triad. Then I sucked in a breath and opened the door. 3 boys in superhero costumes trailed by a normal, tired-looking mother. I sighed a breath of relief and gave them generous handfuls of candy. When I closed the door, I texted Avery. Some girls came to the door with black candy buckets. I didn't give them anything. Was that rude? Are these rules really a thing? After a minute, she replied. Avery, you did good thumbs up emoji. This was all so weird. I sighed and sat down, fidgeting with the candy, no longer excited to watch Hell House LLC. More trick-or-treaters came to the door, and each time I was relieved to see they were normal-looking. Maybe everything was fine. Maybe this was all in my head. Then Avery texted me. "Avery, don't open the door for the clown." I frowned. Me. "I know. That's one of the rules, right?" "Avery, this isn't a joke, Mom. I just saw him. He's next door coming to you next." I started texting her back. Ding dong. I stared at the door. Then I slowly scooted out of my seat. What appeared to be a fully grown man stood on my doorstep. He was decked out in a classic clown costume, but he was turned away from the door. I couldn't see his face, only the back of his red and white onesie, the curly plastic red hair of his wig. I stared at him through the peephole, my heart pounding in my chest. He was just standing there, not turning around or any blip. My phone. "Avery, remember to turn off the light?" "Right. The porch light." I leaned over and flicked the switch. The porch lights cut out. I stared at the clown on my doorstep, now not more than a shadow, lit in gray and blue tones in the moonlight. He slowly began to turn around, painted white skin, red nose, dripping red lips, and something hanging from his hand that I only noticed now that he was slightly turned. An axe. He turned his head and kept turning, until his head seemed to be turned more than a normal human neck would allow. I ducked away from the door, crouched out of view. I heard footsteps. I held my breath. But then the footsteps began to recede. When I finally looked through the peephole again, he was gone. Me. "He's gone. Come home, right now." "Avery, I can't. It's the rules." Me. "Then I'll come get you, Avery." "Don't. It's the rules." Me. "I'm calling the police then." He had an axe. 3 dots appeared, but Avery didn't text me back. Screw this. I hit call. 911, what's your emergency? There's some guy in a clown costume with an axe, and my daughter's out there, and the officer interrupted me. "What's your location?" I gave it to her. "Oakbrook Village?" "Yeah," I breathed. "Don't open the door and turn off the porch light." "What?" "If he comes to your door, don't open it and turn off the porch light." The blood drained out of my face. He poses no risk to the trick-or-treaters, ma'am, as long as they stay away from him, as the rules ask. I opened and closed my mouth. No sound came out. "So they're true," I finally croaked. "As long as you follow them, you'll be safe." And then the call disconnected. I stared at the phone, my mind blank. Me. "Anything else I should know?" "Avery, just follow the rules." Me. "Are you sure I can't come with you?" Avery. "Mom, you can't leave early." "You can't." I began to cry. Why hadn't I insisted on going with Avery? "I can't stay here. I have to get her. I'll drive to her. What's gonna happen? Someone's gonna shoot me down or something? I have to be with her. That's my kid." As if Avery could read my mind, another text came in. "Avery, promise me, Mom, just wait until 8. Everything will be okay." I cried harder. Ding dong. I got up and wiped my eyes, grabbed the candy bowl and opened the door. Looked down at the 3 kids standing on my doorstep. Trick or treat. Wait a minute. A pirate. A fairy. A demon. I swallowed. These were the kids that wanted something of sentimental value from me, right? I looked at each of them. As a group, they looked normal, but when I looked closely at each of their faces, something was a little off. The pirate's face was too long. The fairy's eyes were too big. The demon was wearing a mask, but I could see her hands, and they were too big to be a child's. Okay, sentimental things. Do I really have to do this? Just a second, I said, and walked back into the house. I scanned the fireplace mantel. There was a photo of Avery and me up there at the fair, each of us holding a pink fluff of cotton candy. We'd gone there right after the divorce. The digital copy was lost, so it wasn't like I could print another one. I could give that to them. Would it be cheating to take a photo of it with my phone first? Damn it, I loved that photo. But it was just a photo. Me. Do you think the photo of us on the mantle is sentimental enough for the 3 kids? Avery. I think so. I grabbed it off the mantle and walked back to the kids. I dropped it in the pirate's bag and wiped at my face. Surprisingly, he immediately turned around and walked off the porch back into the dark. I guess that meant I satisfied the request. Okay, you're next, huh? I said to the fairy with the huge eyes. She nodded. I walked back into the house, looked around. I grabbed another photo off the mantle, another one I'd lost the digital copy to. It was me holding her at the hospital, right after birth. I grabbed it and held it over the fairy's bag. She shook her head. She was no longer smiling. Okay, maybe I couldn't repeat the type of object. I walked back into the house and glanced around. What was most sentimental to me, really? My eyes fell on the painting in the kitchen. That had been the first and only painting I'd ever won anything for. I'd submitted it to the fair when I was 18, thinking I had a promising art career ahead, that this was the start of the rest of my life. But life hadn't turned out that way, had it? I'd spent 5 years living in a rat-infested apartment in Brooklyn, eating ramen every night, churning out painting after painting, only keeping myself afloat with more erotic pieces I'd painted. I'd eventually closed that chapter of my life and went back to school for accounting. But a tiny part of myself had always thought, maybe someday. I grabbed the painting off the wall, a landscape of a dreary bog and a cabin in shambles. It looked like how I felt right now. It didn't fit in the fairy's bag, so I dropped it at her feet. I hope that's sufficient, I whispered, staring her down. She picked up the painting and walked off the porch. So it was just the demon left. His ice blue eyes stared up at me through the mask. Does he wear the mask because he doesn't look as human as the others? After a few minutes of searching, I found something even more precious than the last 2. Avery's baby blanket, the one she came home from the hospital swaddled in. I pressed it against my chest, crying, then got up and offered it to the demon child. It shook its head. I don't know what you want from me. This is probably the most precious thing I've ever owned. It shook its head again. Then it lifted its hand and pointed at me. Does it want me? Is it just going to kill me? Me? I finally asked. It shook its head, and then it spoke. A low, grating whisper, barely audible over the wind. Your daughter. No, not Avery, no. My voice cracked. I began to shout. Not Avery. You can have anything but Avery. The demon child stared up at me, then noiselessly turned and walked away. I stood there, frozen in the doorway, watching him disappear into the shadows beyond the halo of the porch light. I finally found the strength to close the front door. Then I collapsed in the chair and sobbed. I don't know how long I sat there, sobbing my eyes out, but before I knew it, my phone was ringing. Avery was calling, and it was 8:01 p.m. I let out a long sigh of relief. Avery, are you okay? Are you? What? I'm standing outside, but, one of the jack-o'-lanterns isn't lit up anymore. I got up and peered out the peephole. Sure enough, I saw Avery standing at the foot of the porch steps. She's okay. Tears rolled down my cheeks. I don't understand. What does that mean? I don't know. But the rules say don't approach any houses with jack-o'-lanterns that aren't lit up. Wouldn't that only apply before 8 p.m.? I don't know. I think I should stay at Maddie's tonight. My heart dropped. Are you sure you're okay? Yeah, I just don't want to risk breaking the rules. So that was it. I didn't sleep a wink that night. I cried the entire time. How could I really know that Avery was okay? I'd seen her, sure. I'd heard her voice on the phone. But what if that was some sort of illusion? What if she actually wasn't safe? What if the demon child had somehow gotten her anyway? Could he take her without my permission? But at 9 the next morning, the front door creaked open and Avery walked inside. I hugged her and cried, and she pried me off her and groaned, "Mom." But for the next few weeks, I watched her like a hawk, not only to make sure she wasn't in danger, but also, what if the demon child had actually taken her? What if this was some mimic, something imitating her, and not really my daughter at all? Because Avery never tied her shoes like that before. Avery never blinked like that before, as if the sunlight hurt her eyes. Avery never filled her sketchbook with dark, spindly creatures of the woods before. Never went out foraging for mushrooms, digging her pink manicured nails into the damp, dark dirt, breathing in the smell of earth and decay. As the days went on, I grew more and more suspicious, a heavy weight in my gut. Until one night, she cooked me dinner with some stuff she'd foraged, and I began throwing up. I halfway thought the thing that replaced her, had poisoned me. I was wrong. You see, I was pregnant. That June, I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, Ava. Avery was over the moon to have a little sister, and even though it turned our plans upside down, it was the best thing to ever happen to us. Except a birth in June meant that I was pregnant on Halloween. And the demon child. It had asked for my daughter, and I'd said it could have anything other than Avery. It's the beginning of October now. We've since moved out of Oakbrook Village, but I still wonder if on Halloween night, that thing will somehow find me and take what I promised.